Detroit Lions are almost nutty if they pass on this kid, because if he turns into something.
How many quarterbacks have the Detroit Lions passed on in the past 5 years? You know, you can even just
Too many.
Exactly.
You are going to vomit all over your shoes that you don't have this guy. You're going to be calling for Brad Holmes' head. Guys, we're talking NFL draft. Malik Willis is a big name. Mel Kiper has him going number 20 to the Pittsburgh Steelers.
We've never believed that. We've always said he's going to be the first guy off the board.
Braylon Edwards, Mel Kiper has the Lions taking Kyle Hamilton at 2, and he has the Lions taking Matt Corral, the quarterback from Ole Miss, at 32. You ready for this?
The good thing is Mel Kiper is nowhere near always right.
That's a very good thing.
Hell of a pro day today.
And he is having his pro day today. 72 passes, 1 hit the ground.
Because it was. There you go.
It was a drop.
Look at, I mean, this guy, I think Alex has the video. Just take a peek at this guy.
He's built like a tank. Oh,
guys, I'm
going
to tell you something right now. Malik Willis is going number 2 to the Detroit Lions. The more I talk to people, the more I hear the chatter, the more I see him play. And I was on him. Who's the first quarterback that I mentioned when we started the show in August?
I told you.
You said Malik
Willis. I've always been a Malik Willis guy.
We kind of laughed about it.
You did.
As the weeks went on.
And I'm telling you, why would you, if you're the Detroit Lions, okay, think about this too. If you're going to take a quarterback at 32, why take the 5th best quarterback? When you can take the 1st best quarterback in Malik Willis, and you have the perfect situation for him. You can let Jared Goff start this year. You can allow Malik Willis to develop a year and learn the NFL schemes, because that's the big knock on him, is that the scheme that he played in at Liberty was not an NFL scheme. Well, put him here in Detroit. Let him be in the room. Let him learn behind Jared Goff. Let him learn these offensive schemes. Let him learn NFL defenses. You do not have to rush him on the field immediately. This is a rebuild. It is year 2 of a rebuild. And I mentioned this the other day. Who are the 3 best quarterbacks in the NFL right now? Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers. None of them started week 1, year 1. You do not have to do it. That does not mean success. So I think that the Detroit Lions are almost nutty if they pass on this kid, because if he turns into something, if he turns into a Lamar Jackson, if he turns into a Patrick Mahomes, hell, if he turns into a Kyler Murray. You are going to vomit all over your shoes that you don't have this guy, and you're going to be calling for Brad Holmes' head.
Well, the interesting thing is you'll be vomiting again. Like, just listening to your point, I just think back about how many quarterbacks have the Detroit Lions passed on in the past 5 years. You know, you can even just say
many.
Exactly, the past 5 years. And this is another situation where this is a guy who you're watching the film, you're watching the tape, you've seen the Senior Bowl, you've heard what they've said about him. Like, the guy has talent. The guy has this type of talent. This guy, we talked yesterday, we talked about watching that game with Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. We talked about watching, like, every GM, every front office guy, I got to have me a quarterback like that. Not even just those two guys. When you're watching Burrow or you're watching Kyler Murray, you're watching Lamar Jackson, you got to have a quarterback like that
Allen.
To succeed nowadays in life. And not only that, you got to have, to win, you got to have a quarterback on that rookie deal. Like, I'm watching it more and more, I'm paying attention to that rookie deal. I'm looking at Joe Burrow and last year and this year. I'm looking at what the Chargers are doing out there with Herbert. You get a guy, what's up, D-Mac? You get a guy in Malik Willis, he comes there, he competes. You have one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. You have a good running game. You got a tight end that's made the Pro Bowl, and T.J. Hockenson. You've shored up the wide receivers to a certain extent so far. You got DJ Chark, Amon-Ra St. Brown. You bring in Josh Reynolds. They're going to draft one potentially. So you don't even necessarily put him in a bad situation like a Justin Fields last year, who had an awful offensive line, an inconsistent backfield. You're putting him in a decent position. So he may get the starting job by week 4, week 5, and come in and they can ease him into it even as a starter. So I think if you want to compete, you got to have one of these type of quarterbacks. Who knows if you'll have another chance at the end of it. And like you said, why take the 5th best when you can take the 1st or 2nd best in Malik Willis? And you don't know what you're going to do in that draft next year. You don't know if they're going to be able to draft Ohio State C.J. Stroud. You don't know if they're going to be able to draft Alabama Bryce Young. Here he is right here. So you know what? Not necessarily a bad call by you, big guy.
Listen, man, we got a story coming up a little bit later on our rundown here that I looked in last night. Pro Football Talk, Michael David Smith. There was word that the Dum Dum brothers were going to take Justin Herbert. They gave him a look. The Lions
Dum Dum
actually
brothers.
gave him a look.
You're talking
back-
about Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia.
Yeah, the Dum Dum brothers.
Yeah, I knew who you meant. I just
Yeah.
for those. Who,
Well, no, they all know.
Didn't-
Everyone that knows Lions knows what I'm talking
Okay.
about.
Very good.
So a couple of years ago, they did actually look into taking this guy when, of
Yeah.
course, they did not, and you know the rest of the story. So taking this kid, if he's a flop even, we don't even know how, what's his name in San Francisco is going to do.
Trey Lance.
We
yeah.
hear all these things, but we really haven't seen much about him. So you're going to see the same thing about Malik Willis. They're going to make packages for him if they do take him. It's going to be Jared Goff, and there's going to be a couple of plays for Malik Willis. And then, if he flops, what did you lose? You lost the opportunity to maybe draft the second or third best defensive line guy that you wanted. But if you do take him, you've got to trade back up into that first round somehow, some way, and get your defensive end. Because he ain't going to be around at 32.
Let me ask you this question: if he is a flop, which is a possibility,
Right.
right?
Money's not a lot.
Look at Baker Mayfield, first overall. Look at
Yeah.
Mitchell
Yeah, he'd be on the
Trubisky.
street.
Look,
Yeah.
there's a million quarterbacks taken in the top 5 that have been flops. There is
Josh
no
Rosen.
guarantee, and I bet you there's more flops than there are good
There
picks
are.
in the top 5 when it comes to the quarterback position. But would you rather flop
Yes.
on a Malik Willis, or would you rather flop on a Kyle Hamilton? Because we've seen it a little bit, and again, I'm really high on Jeff Okudah this year because I'm rooting for the young man.
Yeah.
I'm watching the videos. I am rooting for Jeff Okudah to be good this year. But you cannot convince me that he hasn't, at best, been a disappointment. Right? I mean, you take somebody at number 3, you want him to be a Pro Bowler at any position, regardless of that. But I would rather flop on Malik Willis than flop on insert defensive player here.
When are you going to get another chance to draft this high? I told you months ago. This is it. You're not going to draft at number 2 or 3 anymore.
Right.
You're not going to get a quarterback unless, you get lucky with Tom Brady. You got lucky.
You definitely got lucky with that. The only thing is there'll always be some quarterbacks that emerge. So there'll be some quarterbacks next year that emerge into that 3, 4, and 5 spot behind Bryce and CJ. The only interesting thing I wonder about by taking Malik this year is passing on the defensive line this year. Like, you got Kayvon Thibodeau that will be available to you at pick 2. You have Jordan Davis. You have Trayvon Walker. You have potentially Aiden Hutchins. I know they say the deal's closed, but we shall see. Those are some key players. Those are really good talents, guys that are going to make some Pro Bowls. Those are guys that are going to be different makers in the NFL, and you know that. You know they're going to be that. Do you want to risk passing up on those for a guy Malik Willis, and let's say it doesn't work out? What do you do next year? Do you try to put like this year with San Fran? They were trying to think, do we keep Jimmy Garoppolo and maybe trade Trey Lance? Will we have that option next year if it doesn't work out this year, year 1, where you say, hey, before people get exposed to what Malik Willis is, maybe can we get him out of here and still get some draft picks? That's the only caution to the win that I would say in going with Malik Willis, number 2. Man, Trayvon Walker, man, Kayvon Thibodeau, and man, a couple of those guys on that defensive line. That's tough.
Here's the kicker now. Do you take him at 2? Or do you hold them for ransom? Because I told you, Carolina at 6 and Atlanta at 8 are just as desperate as we are to get that quarterback. You could maybe Pittsburgh at 20. How desperate are they? So do you want to pillage another team? Or do you want to take Malik Willis and roll the dice?
Good question. And here's the answer that I would have. So you're asking basically, would you rather add 2, 3 picks
and a player
to your arsenal here in the NFL draft, or have the player in Malik Willis? Let me go real time, okay? Would you rather have Justin Herbert on your team or three good players?
Justin Herbert.
You'd rather have him.
Of course.
If you have done your due diligence on the quarterback.
How about Tua?
Well, it didn't work out, Tua.
I'm just saying. Tua was rated a little bit above Justin Herbert.
He was.
So would you rather have Tua, like the Dolphins do, or would you rather have 2 or 3 picks and maybe a player?
Well, that's
because you don't know what Malik Willis is going to be.
I understand that, but what if Braylon said it, Maz? Braylon said that quarterback position, you better have a special one, and you better have one on a rookie deal. Otherwise, you're in trouble. You're in legitimate trouble in this version of the NFL.
The kid's got talent too, and it's untapped talent. He played at Liberty.
It's untapped talent, and that's part of the nervousness. You know, Justin Herbert, for all he was, at least he still played at Oregon.
Yeah.
Like, you knew what he was gonna do. Like,
And he's huge.
Exactly. So and that's the what if with Malik Willis is a lot. Like the what if 6'1.5", played at Liberty, still untapped.
Wish he was 6'3".
Still kind of raw, if you will. So I mean, that's the big what if. But it's this day and age, it's the day we live in. It makes you think about this, man. It's like you gotta have a quarterback, gotta have one of these special guys, or gotta have a guy that has the ability to potentially be special. And that's what we're talking about. We're talking about potential. Potential is an MF, man.
I just don't understand if you're going to take a quarterback in the first round, why you would take the 5th best guy
But do we know that?
when you have an opportunity. I'm just saying hypothetically, why you would take that 5th best guy instead of taking the best guy.
What I meant by that is, how do we know he's the 5th best? Matt Corral could be the best of all of them.
Could be. This whole thing's a crapshoot, Bray.
It's a crapshoot, but you know I'm pretty sure that they've done enough homework. By the time all pro days are over with, they'll know enough to know who 1, 2, 3 are, and then 4, 5 they really don't matter. The big thing about that too is, you know, why would you do that? Is because defense wasn't good last year. Defense made some games, they made some plays, they kept some teams under. Yes, I give you that. Minnesota, Chicago twice, and then Lamar Jackson, surprisingly. But with that said, that defense really wasn't good for the majority of the year. Defense is what you need to shore up. You got the offensive line, defense, and wide receiver, the positions that you got to shore up. So I think the people that are taking that quarterback, that Sam Howell or that Matt Corral in that spot, that 32 spot, is one, to get a quarterback in the first round so they can have your favorite deal, which is the 5th-year option. And then 2, that way you can focus on defense with that second pick when you have that guy like Trayvon Walker, when you have that guy like Nakobe Dean, who might move up after his pro day. Well, they already had their pro day, but that's why you want to go defense heavy, because they weren't that good in defense last year. Let's call a spade a spade. They were not good. So that's the interesting thing. That's the one setback, or that's the one hang-up I have. We're going for the Malik Willis look over having that defensive player. It's not too often you get guys on that defensive line that you need, and they need guys on the defensive line, and you got 4 guys in this draft that you really can make a move for and pick and get out there, and they can instantly help your brand, which is that Detroit Lions brand of football that they're trying to bring with Dan Campbell. So that's the only hang-up.
That Trayvon Walker that you got me hooked on last week.
I'm telling you.
I can't get him out of my mind, but it's quarterback first.
Yeah.
It is. And we don't think we have our quarterback of the future yet.
I don't believe you do either. Now, could you win games, and can you be competitive with Jared Goff? I firmly believe that, but also you've got to consider the contract. The Jared Goff contract right now. I mean, you pay the quarterback. What's Jared Goff make? $18-20 million a year? I mean, you got to get a quarterback on a rookie. Maybe might make $26 million a year, actually. 26 million, 28 million, something like that. The Lions are in a unique spot as well, picking it too, because I've mentioned this before. There isn't a player on this board where you're like, yeah, that's the second best player in the draft. This is totally needs-based, which is very rare when you pick that high, that you kind of pick for need. You just take the best player available to you normally when you pick that high.
Here's another thing, too. And
that's not the case now. I feel like you pick for need here.
Here's something else. I believe the Jeff Okudah situation really has, left a bad taste in Detroit fans' mouths. If you think about Jeff Okudah, he went third overall, wasn't good his first year, had the Achilles injury last year, didn't play. So now you're hoping he comes back and does something, but you're not thinking he's going to be a top 3 pick talent-wise in this NFL because of what you've seen so far. They need DBs, and they have some DBs in the draft. Kyle Hamilton's a guy that can play easy in the back, one of our heavyweight guys. He's been on Kyle Hamilton this whole year. You got Derek Stingley Jr. He didn't have the best year last year, but he's a hell of a talent, man. You watch what he did the year before last and 2 years before that. That guy can play, and he's going to be a great player. What do we talk about? LSU guys, never let you down. Don't worry, I'll wait. I'm waiting for an LSU guy to let me down. Sauce Gardner. He's another guy out of Cincinnati. Didn't allow a touchdown in 4 years. I don't care if he played at Albion. He didn't allow a touchdown in 4 years. You know how hard that is?
Yep.
That takes talent. And he played against Alabama, and he played against Georgia, and he played against some other teams in Auburn. So there's some really good secondary players in this draft. But that Jeff Okudah situation, you come back to that, it has Detroit fans, has them leery of taking that position.
If you told me that Kyle Hamilton was Sean Taylor, I'm all. Oh, sorry, I hit the table. They don't like it when we hit the table.
Did you notice who the guys?
it though.
The two guys we're talking about. The two guys we're talking about it too. Those are the two guys that Vegas has locked in at number 2.
Let me tell you,
Isn't
though,
that something?
we're-
But let me ask you this: if you were picking first, who are you picking?
Hutchinson.
You are?
I am.
You just
picking
told me you wanted a
Hutchinson.
quarterback.
I understand, but I'd
Okay,
pick
so you
Hutchinson.
like Hutchinson over Malik Willis?
I think Hutchinson is a 12-year. I think he's a T.J. Watt type player.
Okay.
I think he's a T.J. Watt type player that is an absolute shoe-in without, barring injuries. I think he's a shoe-in 10 to 12-year player.
Reverse. Go J.J. Watt.
J.J. Watt.
And I'm on your team. T.J. is more going after the quarterback. J.J. is a guy that plays the run, doesn't come off the field, plays the pass as well. So he plays more like that. Aiden doesn't have to come off the field. Aiden has a high motor. He can play well in the run game. He can move over if he has to, and he rushes the quarterback well. That's why I think he's more like a J.J. Watt. T.J., we know he's just getting to the quarterback. That's what he gets paid to do.
I think outside of the wide receivers, really 4 of them to me, and that's Braylon's department. He can really pick that out. I think Hutchinson and those 4 wide receivers, I'm talking Drake London, Olave, Wilson, and Jamison Williams coming off the Achilles.
Look at you over there.
Coming off the Achilles. I think those 5 players specifically, not an offensive lineman. I don't know much about the offensive lineman, but we don't need an offensive lineman. I think those 5 guys are guys that are going to be in this league for a long time and be very successful. Everybody else you're talking about is a crapshoot, and a crapshoot at 2 nonetheless.
Yeah, crapshoot at 2. You don't want a crapshoot at 2. I get that. It's tough. That's why I'm glad I'm not a GM. I'm glad I'm not a head coach for any team in the NFL, because it is a tough deal, man. Like, you're looking at a pick that can destroy or make up, what you want to be moving forward in the future.